Hello, welcome into the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. I have Kyle Boone here. How we doing, KB? I just realized at the start of this episode, I don't have my wire charger. At some point, you're going to hold court, so we're going live now. No Parrish. Where is Parrish? If you're listening to the podcast, it's me, Kyle Boone. I would say he's making his grand return to the pod, except he was on the Saturday bracket reveal. Where's Gary Parrish? I can't tell you. It remains a mystery. Does he have his phone? He wasn't on the emergency podcast where I talked about Juwan Howard's suspension. He's not on this episode either. We are going to have a fun, grand old time here. So welcome into a Wednesday edition. We got a lot to get to. Okay, listen. Question. What kind of student were you when you got into class in high school, middle school? You walk in and you're like, whoa. Substitute teacher right now. Were you a little bit of a troublemaker there, KB?
No, I was always a teacher's pet. You know this.
Of course.
I mean, you could guess this. Yeah, I was always a good kid. I mean, high school, that was not necessarily the case, but yeah, middle school up until like 10th grade. Yeah, you could count on me to be like the kid who's helping serve court alongside the teachers for sure. Yeah.
This is going to be a fun episode. We got a lot to get to. Going to get to a lot of topics, a lot of them. We're going to lead, obviously, on Uconn beating Villanova. We are going to do, listen, we're going to do a live mailbag portion on the back end of this episode. If you're listening on the podcast, the mailbag episode is going to be live in real time on Wednesday. That will be a separate episode unto itself in the feed that will publish overnight, so it will be available to you on Thursday morning. I am Matt Norlander. I'm here with Kyle Boone, and we're going to start with Nova versus Uconn because I'm going to have something in the court report. I actually have not technically finished writing it as we're recording this podcast. Once we get done with the pod, then I will finish up what needs to finish up with that. But clearly, what Uconn did to beat Villanova on Tuesday night. Nada, my man, you got Uconn upsets Villanova in the graphic. Uconn was favored. That's right. That's the whole point, though. Uconn was favored in the game. They won. Dan Hurley talked about that afterward. I'll get to those comments in a second. Wow. To me, this signaled the true spiritual return of the Huskies to the Big East. They joined in 2020 in official capacity, July of 2020. Then last year, they have a good season. They make the NCAA Tournament, KB, but they don't play in front of fans most of the season. You know, there wasn't that environment. And even though they had a quality season, they had some good wins. Even to this point this season, yeah, they've gotten some nice wins at home, but this is Villanova. Like one way I gauge kind of the stuff is I live in Connecticut. My wife graduated from the University of Connecticut. I have plenty of friends who either went to Uconn or they're just Uconn fans because they've lived and grown up in Connecticut their entire lives. And when I'm getting text messages on Monday and Tuesday from friends that I talk to, but it's not on a regular basis. We're not on the phone on a weekly basis. We're not even texting on a weekly basis. We just, they pop in and out of it, but they're texting me, either telling me they're going to the game, they're betting on the game. They want my thoughts on how good Villanova's been this season. There was a true anticipation with this game. This is why you get back in the Big East. This is what happened on Tuesday, Kyle, and I'll get to the Hurley ejection and all that stuff. What happened on Tuesday was such a perfect encapsulation of everything that the Big East means to Uconn, its fan base, and likewise. I mean, there was a point in that game where I thought, like, Uconn really did go to the American Athletic Conference. That was a thing that happened for like 7-8 years. What were we doing? And it felt really awesome. So your thoughts on the scene that transpired, everything with it. I'm going to play audio soon, by the way, but court is yours, man. Floor is yours.
Yeah. Oh, we can get to the Hurley ejection. We can get to the charge. All that. I mean, just a significant win for Uconn, obviously. By the way, I just want to note here at the top, just an all-time hilarious beat. If you bet on the game last night, Uconn was favored by 2 points. Uconn ended up, it was a push. Andre Jackson made the first of his 2 free throws with, I believe it was like 0.2 seconds left in the game. Then just absolutely nuked his second free throw intentionally off the front end. Just watching that live, knowing what the line was, I know you said you had friends who were maybe wagering some cheddar on that game. Just hilarious ending, but a great win for UConn, obviously, to pull that off over Villanova without, for the most part, Hurley, who was ejected very, very early in that game. I thought UConn was dead. In the final minute, they fell behind 69-65, and it kind of felt like it was over. But just as was the case all night, it kind of didn't feel like it was over. You were inside the building, so you can give us a little bit more context. But the XL Center was absolutely rocking last night. It looked absolutely fantastic. Willed UConn to a win, and a really nice finish, I thought, for RJ Cole, who hit what was eventually kind of the go-ahead shot late, and then he took the charge to kind of clinch it for UConn.
He did. All right, I'm gonna play. This is the Fox Sports 1 broadcast. This will actually allow me to dip down and get my charger so I can have a battery to last for the rest of this episode. This is a solid minute 54. Okay, but this is the first tee into the ejection, and then the building rattling "Ref, you suck" chant. I mean, I was looking around seeing 9-year-olds yell this thing. Grandma's in the 14th row. I was losing it on press row at just what kind of, like, there was such an intense atmosphere. And then it turns into like this little bit of a farce. And James Breeding calls 2 technical fouls on Dan Hurley. Here's how it sounded on the Fox Sports 1 broadcast.
And Gillespie, long pass ahead to Samuels. Cole there to break it up. But a whistle.
They got a T on Danny. What they saw him do was bang the sideboard. Trying to prevent him from exiting here.
Kamani Young is playing buffer zone right now for his head coach.
I used to say Dave Lato and George Blaney were the best checkout guys for Jim Calhoun. They used to scream away from the referee with their size.
Another technical, he's gone.
He threw him out.
Dan Hurley is gone. The second tee, and he's been ejected from this game with 4:53 to go. He was getting the crowd fired up.
I have seen guys do that and not be called.
So we've got back-to-back technicals on the head coach. And Dan Hurley is out of this game with 4:53 to play in the first.
Yeah, fortunately, there's 2 guys on the bench. I'm not sure who they will go to. Kamani Young, his associate head. Of course, Tom Moore had been a head coach. Luke Murray, great background in the game. He's got to be careful to call another one.
Here comes the best part.
They talk like that in Nebraska.
The crowd is taking a little issue.
It's sensed.
Oh, man. How about ref? They talk like that. If you didn't catch that, ref goes, they talk like that in Nebraska. Incredible, man. So all right. So let's just talk about the ejection here.
Comically weak. Just comically weak, I thought.
It was weak. Now, the first tee, like I even told Hurley after his press conference, I got a little one-on-one with him for the court report. I even told him the first one you probably earned, man. And he didn't necessarily disagree, although he got it because he slams the table down, both hands. He's ticked off because there's a no call on Tyrese Martin. And then James Breeding, who's not even the closest official to all of this. Hurley said he was the furthest away. I didn't see that in real time. Maybe that was probably the case, whatever. So he gets the tee, whatever. I was a little surprised by it, but then like Hurley's reaction to the tee, like it's, I find now listen, does Hurley need to get himself in control sometimes? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Is it also entertaining? Absolutely. No doubt about it. And is college basketball better by having these kinds of coaches, like actual characters in the Big East? Absolutely. No doubt about it. So was on a couple of group texts on Tuesday night where couple different people, were privately saying, I won't say who they are. None of them necessarily coaches, but like Dan Hurley acts like a freaking child, man. He deserves all this. If he's ticked off over getting run, well, he earned it. The refs cannot stand working his games, and to a certain extent, that's probably true. But breeding is persona non grata in that building in this state forever, because the second tee is an absolute joke. First of all, he gets the first tee, kind of accepts it. He gives RJ Cole a high five. He kind of goes and he's like, okay, that's fine. Like, he knows in that moment it is it's an intense environment. The XL Center, you got to understand, this is the game at the XL Center. Stores, Gamble is usually the spot. That's the better environment every single time. I have been in the XL Center with an environment like it was last night, maybe 3, maybe 4 times. Like, there have been good games in that building, Uconn games, but it had been a long time since that was the case, and it felt like Gamble in there. So with that as context, Hurley just quickly turns to the crowd and is like, yeah, come on, let's get up. Come on, let's get up. And then Breeding, who I think, by the way, I'm not saying this was his exact reasoning, but I think maybe on a subconscious level, this played into it. 1, Hurley's already been reprimanded by the Big East earlier this season for comments he made. 2, Val Ackerman, the commissioner, is in the building on Tuesday night. So you've got the commissioner of the league. Hurley's already been talked to. He knew that, not that necessarily he was on thin ice, but Hurley knew going into this game that, he just doesn't have the same kind of leeway. If Jay Wright does the exact same thing at the Finn, Jay Wright's not getting kicked out of the game. There's no way. And if the exact thing plays out, if Jay Wright gets a first tee and then Jay Wright turns around to the fans, Philadelphia, and starts pumping him up like that, James Breeding's not kicking Jay Wright out of the game. And part of that's reputation and what you earn. I get all that. But the ejection was an absolute joke. It was a joke. Yeah. It was also, I was losing it at my seat because the scene was like, he's getting tossed. And at first, it almost seemed like he was like, are they actually throwing me out? Like, they did a quick huddle, the officials did at the table, and then Hurley's on the outskirts just trying to make sure, and then he's out. And then, of course, the volcano erupts, and you got 9-year-olds chanting "Ref, you suck," which, by the way, those got more profane later in the game. James Breeding, by the way, calls the iffy at best charge on Colin Gillespie to wrap the victory for Uconn. And then Hurley kind of just the TV cameras caught it. He just saunters his way. He took in the scene as long as he could. The fans gave him a standing ovation. I haven't tweeted out the video yet, but after the game ended, when Uconn won, where I was sitting on press row, if I looked right there, I could see Hurley in the tunnel. And at one by one, as the players came off the floor, like it was a really cool scene, like massive celebrations. Hurley's just going nuts back there. And I took a video. He dipped I could see him. He asked his athletic director, he's like, can I just go out real quick? And he said he got the okay. Game was over. He goes out and he just kind of steps out, looks at the fans, gives a little, yeah. Like he had to get at least one more. He said in this post-game press conference, he's looking forward to an explanation from the league's head of officials. If Dan Hurley bothers you, I get it. And sometimes he is over the line. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, he needs to control himself better. There's no question. But damn if it's not entertaining. And that was a wonderful night for the Big East. And a huge moment for UConn's program. Would you agree? Like, last night felt like the ceremonial true return to UConn to that conference?
Yeah, UConn's got a swagger back. That's really what it felt like. I felt like it was kind of beneath UConn to storm the court. Like, I feel like UConn's been there before. That's beside the point, though. Top 25 team beating a top 10 team, beating Villanova, beating Villanova without Hurley for the most part. It felt like UConn really is back. I agree with you. You could see on TV, by the way, that Hurley was at least acting like he was just completely stumped that he was ejected. I don't know if that was acting so much, but what they caught on, at least from watching on TV, it almost looked, as he was walking back to the locker room, he had a few choice words, and the TV caught that. It almost looked on TV like they were reconsidering, like he was maybe not going to get that second tee and get ejected. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that just fantastic theater from start to finish, really, for UConn. I thought it was a great kind of preview and Just the environment looked fantastic. Hurley getting tossed was just a great moment, and then the finish, obviously with the late controversial charge. Yeah, from start to finish, I thought it was a really good game, and I thought UConn being up for it in that moment was pretty significant.
Yeah, in my court report story, I kind of lead with like this idea of just the sound of the building. Like I've been at UConn games that have been good in recent years, and a great crowd's a great crowd, but there is a certain palpable energy and vibe to a huge Big East game. There's like this Northeast pride and arrogance that attaches itself to these kind of games, and it was a really I woke up on Tuesday unsure if I was going to go. I'm really glad that I wound up going because it was an incredible game, and it also, by the way, is almost like a table setter for next month. I'll be at the Garden for the Big East tournament. I'll ping pong back between Barclays with the ACC and MSG with the Big East. Last year, again, no fans at MSG for the Big East tournament when UConn was back in. UConn fans are going to storm that building. That first Big East tournament game that UConn plays next month is going to be an absolute scene. This fan base they've just been seething in the best way to just make their presence known, returning to the conference. Oh, by the way, UConn beating Villanova kind of helps rival Providence in terms of a regular season championship, but just an amazing moment. I saw someone in the chat wanted to address the jump ball. Yeah. That was right near me. It was I was on the baseline, so it happened near the UConn bench, and that was the side of the floor that I happened to be sitting. As a general aside, I can't stand how quickly this has been a pet peeve of mine for decades. I hate how quickly officials will call a held ball. Let them tussle for it. Let someone wrangle control. If you truly have a situation where both guys have a true say on possession of the ball, and it's like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, then call it. But to me, too often you get maybe a beat, and they call it. If your issue is like the possession arrow, I don't think that's would a jump ball be better? I guess I don't think that's necessary. I don't think that they're going to get rid of the possession arrow, and there's a randomness factor to this, without no doubt about it. But for Villanova to lose in that spot, and we'll wrap and move on in a second here, KB. But for Villanova to lose in that spot when it was up the way it was up 4, less than 20 seconds to go. Like, we just don't see Villanova lose those kind of games. In fact, let me bring this up in real time. I want to see what I didn't think to look at this yet. I want to see what the KenPom win probability was. So Villanova, man, oh man, look at this. Villanova was at 90, looks like 93.5%. No, look at man, oh man, is that a fact? 93.5%. It actually says UConn's minimum win probability got down to 3.9%. So even better than 90. At one point, Villanova was 96% to win. Yeah, here we go. 96% to win the game in that spot. And then Tyler Polley hits the 3. Kamani Young, I have to mention this, did a great job in Hurley's stead. UConn's had a good season. Kamani Young, I would think, is going to get some real looks at some job interviews this offseason if he wants to take on being a head coach, depending on the programs he interviews for. But he did a great job, had a great call there. And then the charge at the end. I don't like it. I'm not as like fanatical about hating charges as some others are. Like, there are plenty of bad ones, but at a certain point, like, you can't allow offensive players to, run roughshod completely all over the court. Like, a defender should have the right to his space, but it's that gray area, and just getting to a place where we're not teaching guys to slide in under a defender, try and plant for a half second, if that, tenth of a second, cover their crotch and think they can get the call. To those have an issue with those kind of charges, I get it. I thought it was, I felt that was a no call situation. What about you, Kyle? End of the game.
It was 50-50. I mean, it was very on brand for college basketball for a game like that to end with a block charge. It didn't totally look like RJ Cole had his feet set as Colin Gillespie was attacking the hoop. Gillespie got up and was pretty convinced that it was a block, obviously, and he has the right to feel that way. But yeah, I thought it was. I mean, if I was the ref, I probably would have called it a block, but I didn't have a huge issue with it being a charge. It sucks that a 50-50 call that late in the game ends up basically deciding it. That's what I think I probably have the bigger issue. It's a block charge call. In that moment, maybe just leave it alone and just kind of let them play.
Yeah, I'd go no call there, but man, just a great scene. It got me really really ready for the Big East tournament next month. That's gonna be a good time. As we speak in real time here on Wednesday, Villanova probably still sets up on, say, the 3 line. Uconn probably a 5 seed right about now. Record wise, Villanova's 21-7. Uconn is 20-7. Villanova is now 14-4 in the Big East. Uconn is 11-5, and then Providence is sitting with the best record overall, 22-3, with a 12-2 record. Providence has a game on Wednesday. We'll preview the Wednesday slate in a little bit, but we do need to talk about a number of bubble results from the past 2 nights. So we are going to do that, but first,
Master Chief recovered something.
Sacred ring. Halo.
When I touched the object, it felt different.
What does one do with a superhuman you're not sure you can trust?
Find the Halo. Win the war.
okay, well, there we go. The video element on these podcasts, man, more and more each week. Hey, I like it. All right, let's talk bubble results here, and we'll go chronological order. So Monday, the 3 most prominent: Indiana blows a lead late against Ohio State. TCU got a home win against West Virginia. North Carolina avoids a bad loss. It beats Louisville. We'll start with Indiana. The Hoosiers, I think they're getting in. Man, the thing is, man, it's not that they lose against Ohio State. They weren't expected to win. They had this lead. They had a double-digit lead, and they blew it. Now, Indiana's lost 5 consecutive games, and they've put their NCAA tournament future in doubt. And I did not think that was going to be the case. Basically, in the preseason, I didn't think it was going to be the case. We had a dribble handoff post, which, if you're unfamiliar and listening, at cbssports.com, once a week, we will do a collaborative piece where each of us will kind of offer a paragraph's worth of thoughts on a given topic. And that dribble handoff post earlier in the season, I think in the preseason, was which non-top 25 team, maybe the preseason AP poll has come out, which non-top 25 team do you think has the best chance at being a Final Four long shot, I guess? And my pick was Indiana, because I believed it then, and I believed it as recently as maybe 6 weeks ago. But the Hoosiers have been in something of a free fall here. At one point, they were a 16-5 team, and now they're sitting at 16-10. They lose 80-69 on Monday against Ohio State, which, by the way, in getting the win, allow me to give a little bit of credit to Chris Holtmann, of course. They needed them to get themselves back on the right track there. IU right now, I think I'd have them. I really think, like, I was doing some quickie bracketing stuff yesterday morning. I think I'd have Indiana as like a 12 right now. I think they're that close to this. Your thoughts on the Hoosiers? I don't know how much of that game you saw, but do we think this team's going in the NCAA tournament? I mean, look at the schedule they got coming up. Yeah, yay or nay? February 23rd right now. Make the prediction, KB.
No, they're not getting in. No, I don't think so.
Getting in.
I don't think so. They've got Maryland, Minnesota, Rutgers, Purdue to close the regular season. So maybe I'm going to say no. That was their 5th straight loss, losing to Ohio State. It was a tough one. They've had some close ones here too. But that, for their resume, I think they really needed. That's a tough one for them to swallow. Here's what Jerry Palm had to say earlier in the week. By the way, he said Indiana drops to 16-10 overall, 8-10 against the top 3 quadrants. He says that is the sort of record against that group that the committee has historically found very difficult to reward. And Palm's not writing them off either. He's still kind of tracking them closely in his bubble watch. But I'll throw it back to you and see what you think. I kind of don't think Indiana gets in the NCAA tournament. What do you think?
I'm going to say it gets in, although the resume is, how about this? Indiana right now is 5-10 against the top 2 quadrants. It doesn't have a Q3 or Q4 loss, which is helping it at the moment. And if you're looking specifically in quad 1, 2-6 record. Schedule upcoming. Thursday, home against Maryland, obviously a must-win situation.
Yep.
Right. Then they're at Minnesota. I don't want to call it a must-win, but you complicate matters if you can't go on the road and beat a Minnesota team that we talked about early in the season. It started hot, but Ben Johnson's squad is 4-12 in the league, and its wins, since January 1 have been against Rutgers at home. When Rutgers wasn't Rutgers, and yet it was Rutgers. And they beat Penn State at home and Northwestern at home. That's Minnesota's win. So Indiana kind of got to win that. Then they're home against Rutgers. And then they will close at Purdue. You go 3-1 in that stretch. I say you go 3-1 in any combination. Any combination. You win your next 3, you lose at Purdue, fine. You lose at home to Maryland, it's going to be complete 5-alarm fire. But if you can then win at Minnesota, beat Rutgers at home, and then win at Purdue, you're going to really do yourself well. And then avoid at all costs. Who knows where they're going to be seated and what the Big Ten bracket is going to look like, KB? But you cannot lose your first Big Ten tournament game. So we could have some real drama here with the Hoosiers and Mike Woodson in his first season. As a reminder, Indiana has not made the NCAA tournament since 2016. It would have been in the field in 2020. It wasn't a great team, but it was relatively comfortably projected to make the field in 2020, 9-10 seed range. But we didn't have a tournament there. So it's just been a while. Indiana fans are aching for it. And that was certainly a bubble result of note. Elsewhere on Monday, you had TCU winning at home against West Virginia. Man, Bob Huggins is a finalist for the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame, and his team is
falling apart.
They were 13 and 2 at one point, and now they're 14 and 13. West Virginia and Oklahoma, and oh, by the way, Oklahoma, which scored 42 points at Texas Tech on Tuesday night. I obviously didn't see the game because I was at Uconn Nova. Oklahoma is now 14 and 14 and has gone from an 11-2 group that seemed like, they're going to go to the NCAA tournament. They might not even be in the NIT. So those are the 2 teams in the Big 12 that have had their issues, but good on TCU. TCU right now is a 17-8 team. They're still sub 500 in the Big 12. I don't care about league record. That's something a lot of people will focus on. I just never look at it because it's completely irrelevant as far as the selection committee is concerned. TCU is not there yet, though. Their best metric is on the team sheet to strength of record. They're 34th. Everywhere else, they're in the 50s, with the exception of KPI. They're 46. So the resume stuff is helping them. TCU has more work to do. Right now, their remaining schedule is Wednesday at Texas. That's a biggie. Saturday, they'll host Texas Tech. Get this. They got Kansas back-to-back, and then they're at West Virginia. I mean, TCU, they're going to absolutely earn it if they get in. They have got the toughest stretch upcoming of any team in the conference there. I'm going to say, I'm not going to make this. We're going to predict yes or no for every team. But since we did it with Indiana, I don't think TCU's going. They can get there, but at Texas, home to Tech, home to Kansas, at Kansas. By the way, that's home to Kansas on a Tuesday, at Kansas 2 days later. Okay,
on a Tuesday.
That's next week. And then at West Virginia to close it out. So a good necessary win at home earlier in the week, but TCU has got its work cut out for us. Any thoughts on the Froggies, by the way?
Not really. They definitely needed that one to stop the 3-game skid, but this upcoming schedule is absolutely brutal. Palm has them in as a 9 seed. I'm not going to make a prediction at this point, but basically the toughest upcoming stretch for any Big 12 team in the toughest conference in college basketball. I mean, if they get in, they're going to earn it for sure. But this is a brutal gauntlet for TCU upcoming.
Other result from Monday was North Carolina just getting the win against Louisville. We have a question I think that's going to be coming in the mailbag portion about the Tar Heels. So I'll keep my thoughts relatively short for now because I'll talk about Hubert. But UNC is 20-8, and its resume right now 1-7 in quad 1, 4-0 in quad 2. That's a combined 5-7 mark, and they've got the quad 4 loss to Pitt there. They keep on the straight and narrow. But we'll save some UNC talk for later. Tuesday's bubble results: Florida lost, And I thought I think that was kind of a sneaky detrimental loss here because the Gators, KB, they win over the weekend against Auburn. Then they get a home opportunity against Arkansas. They lose 82-74. Now they're at Georgia and at Vanderbilt. Losing those games just torpedoes your resume. They got to win them. Then they finish up at home against Kentucky. If they beat Kentucky, they'll be there. But I kind of feel like Florida's really dangling in the air here. Mike White, I know the fan base, they are growing frustrated, which is, it's an interesting spot to be in because you knocked off Auburn over the weekend in lemon booty fashion, but you did it nonetheless. And then you can't take advantage of at home against Arkansas. Thoughts on the Gators and how much you saw that game on Tuesday? Again, I'm talking about Tuesday games that I didn't see because of where I was at. So I'm relying on you here, KB, on what will happen there with the Gators and Razorbacks.
Yeah, I did get to watch this game last night. Arkansas is just a buzzsaw right now. That's kind of my takeaway from the game that I watched. They've won 12 of their last 13 games. I thought Florida played pretty well. Colin Castleton finished with a career-high 29 points in that loss last night. But Arkansas seemed like every time Florida was climbing back into it, they just kept finding ways to kind of push that game out of reach. So it's obviously a tough loss. They win that one, and maybe they're feeling pretty good. But I thought that was a pretty interesting game from Tuesday that kind of snuck under the radar. Arkansas, like I said, they've won 12 of their last 13. They're probably the hottest team in the SEC right now.
They absolutely are, and they would be on the 4 line right now if we built out a bracket. If you're watching live or if you're watching after the fact, a reminder to please hit the like button if you have not already. Give it a nice little thumbs up. Engagement helps grow the channel. You have been terrific, and I'm giving thanks and credit to the crew right now that's involved in this, because when we get to March, like, the channel's been growing nicely. Downloads have continued to grow, which is terrific. This thing's going to spike. We're going to get some great new fans in. We're going to get some randoms in here. So if you could help us continue to grow the channel, it would be greatly appreciated. Commenting, engaging, all that good stuff. And if you have not already, if you got a buddy, a mom, dad, sister, cousin, anything that enjoys college basketball, but you're not quite sure if maybe they would, if they listen to podcasts, just bring it up in conversation, just casually, just let them know we're out there. Love to have you. And by the way, as we get into March and the schedules get really crazy, not just with games, but with my work schedule, Parrish's, we will have a lot of mix and match. So there'll be some episodes. Most episodes will be me and GP, but there will be the occasional. Maybe we'll go 3-way, and there will be me and KB, or me and Cobb, GP and KB. There'll be a whole bunch of stuff, and you'll have many more episodes to look forward to. So that's a preview for March. And thank you again. We are going to do a live mailbag portion on the back end of this that will publish in audio form on Thursday. So if you have questions, feel free to drop in the chat and we will answer them. Other bubble results from Tuesday: Iowa beats Michigan State to continue its resume building. It's in the field right now for sure. How about, by the way, so Luka Garza gets his name in the rafters, as did Marble, which was great. But how about the fact that Murray has had this kind of season as a follow-up to Luka Garza? Like, Luka Garza was essentially a wire-to-wire National Player of the Year a season ago, and that's the kind of thing we talked about in the podcast, KB, where Iowa just, it normally doesn't have that. And yet, even though I don't know if Murray's going to win it, he has played brilliantly this season. He had 28 and helped him win against Michigan State. Let me give you the floor here. Talk a little bit about the Hawkeyes at 19-8 and what Keegan Murray's been able to do, being a top 5 scorer in the country, 37% from 3. He's 5th right now in KenPom's Player of the Year algorithm. What'd you see on Tuesday night, and what do you think of the Hawkeyes?
Keegan Murray, first team All-American for you right now, or no? It's
close.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's either like the last person on the first team or the first person on the second team. It's such a crowded race, which I personally love, but he's very much in the mix there, particularly because he's a very good two-way player, which I'll take into account.
Yeah, that was an eye-opening result, I thought, from Tuesday. They totally dominated in that game down the stretch, Keegan Murray in particular. I thought what the Hawkeyes did to Michigan State was pretty jarring, honestly. It felt like in the second half, they just completely turned it up to a new level down the stretch. Michigan State completely laid down. Michigan State's now lost 5 of its last 6 games. So yeah, that was kind of my brief takeaway. It was decently close even midway through that second half, and then Iowa just turned it up to a new gear. I think the story's probably more about Michigan State right now because they're kind of flailing in the wind, but I think we should show some love to Iowa because that was a pretty impressive closing finish for Keegan Murray and Iowa in that game last night.
It was. There's no doubt about it. Michigan State's got some issues, no doubt about that. I'll get to that in a second. Iowa right now is 19th in the net as of Wednesday morning. Its predictives are better than its results-based metrics. If Iowa kind of works its way to the field, but they take one more bad loss, kind of get some good wins, they could be an interesting test case or a study in how the committee is going to see the field. I think there's a couple of teams this season where the disparity between results-based metrics and predictive metrics are stark enough where we're going to actually be able to look at 3 or 4 teams that get into the tournament, and we'll say, okay, did the committee apply the same philosophy overall with all these teams, or is there inconsistencies? And if that does happen, the latter part, if we have inconsistencies, I think it's important for people to remember, because I've had conversations with committee members over the years about this. I'd love to have these, by the way, I'd love to have these conversations on the record. Unfortunately, the way things go, it's always just the committee head who speaks to this, but on background conversations over the years, I've basically been told, listen, there have been cases with teams that either got in or didn't get in, or were on this seed line instead of this seed line, where there might be, it was a 10-person committee in the past, now it's 12 people. There might be 3 people in the room that are vehemently banging the table for this team to be in the field as opposed to out or whatever, but it is a collective vote, which is good. Like you've got a diversity of thought, and it's gonna, there's a process to this, and every committee member puts in their overall seed rankings, and then it's just going to spit out the order it's going to spit out. But just remember, if we do have inconsistencies, it doesn't mean that all 10 or 12 committee members thought, well, we're going to apply this set of thinking to Iowa, but we're not going to do that same thing. Who's another team that might this apply? Maybe Murray State. Like Murray State, I actually think has some pretty intriguing potential seeding possibilities. We're not going to do it with Murray State, or we're not going to do it with, say, North Carolina if it gets in. So just keep that in mind going forward. I'm sure we address that once we get into March. As for Michigan State, real quick, I had the Spartans I'm going to blindly, and my 1-358 preseason, I want to say I had them 34th or 35th. I wasn't all in the way some others were relatively all in. And by all in, people thought this was going to be a top 25 team. They're about now, big picture. Now they're slumping. They've dropped 5 or 6, but on the whole, if you kind of step back and look at what they've done, they're about what I thought they would be. So I'm not stunned. They just aren't getting consistent enough. It's obvious, but as we said, they just don't get consistent enough play, and they aren't a good shooting team. They're decently on offense from 3-point range, but inside the arc, they're horrendous. They're 198th in the country. That's very bizarre for a Tom Izzo team. And to this point, Max Christie, the talented freshman, he hasn't made the jump. There's been some nice moments. Tyson Walker had a good game the other day. AJ Hogar has been good. I do like Malik Hall a lot, but this could be something of an MSU team where, and I might have mentioned this on the pod. If I didn't mention it on this one, I mentioned it on the College Sports Now, which if you want a little extra Norlander, College Sports Now podcast, feel free to go find it.
Here's my quick GP impersonation. I'm going to take my hat off and I'm going to go bald and said, Norlander, how dare you go advertising this on CBS.
How about that gorgeous dome? That's gorgeous dome there. But I said with Michigan State, they could just kind of get into the field and be a one and done. It might be a little bit of a lost season. They barely squeaked in last year. I don't know. Are you kind of with me on that? There's just not a lot of reasons to get inspired about what MSU has this season.
Yeah, it's an okay team. It's not a team that totally overwhelms you with talent. I'm super impressed by Max Christie long term, but this year, you're right. He hasn't quite made the leap. Izzo's allowed him to kind of play through some of these mistakes, and yeah, we'll see. It does feel like this is not a totally vintage Michigan State team for Tom Izzo. So they end up going one and done in the NCAA tournament. That totally would not surprise me at all.
Yeah, we'll see. There's the old January, February Izzo meme or tweet pops up each year. I don't know about that one though. We'll see. Miami won on Tuesday. Last bubble team we'll get to. They won at Pitt, so they just dodged the bad loss here. Hurricanes are now a 20-win team this season, and I think they're going to get in. Right now, Miami feels like 10 seed level, right around there with getting this win. They still got more work to do. They're definitely a bubble team. They're going to play Virginia Tech at home on Saturday, and then they close at BC at Syracuse. So they've got winnable games for the remainder of the schedule. As long as they don't drop 2 of the next 3 and then flop in the ACC tournament, I think Miami will be okay. I'll say this. Miami's one of those teams. They get 3 wins no matter how they get them. They're getting in. 2 might even be enough. But we shall see. They got swept by Virginia, which makes for an intriguing situation for the Wahoos, and we'll get to them in just a minute. Those are the bubble results from the past couple of days. I want to pivot and quickly talk about the Mountain West. The court report, which will run later on Wednesday, leads on Uconn, but then the item number 2 is about Wyoming and Jeff Linder. So Wyoming plays Colorado State on Wednesday night. Boise State got a win over San Diego State on Tuesday. I got a couple thoughts, but I'm just going to tee you up here. Love having you on the pod, buddy. It's great to be having this conversation. So I want to give you some time and a room to talk about teams that maybe you haven't written about yet or talked about yet. Thoughts on the Mountain West, and we thinking 4 teams at this point, close to a lock for that league, 4-bid league.
4 teams. I think that's right. By the way, what were the preseason odds on the Mountain West potentially having more NCAA tournament teams than the ACC? Like 50 to 1, 100 to 1.
Exactly. I think they might wind up with the exact same amount. I think the ACC.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's right. But I love that we're giving the Mountain West some love. Long overdue for the Cowboys of the North for Wyoming. Should be a pretty interesting game versus Colorado State Wednesday night. Good on Boise State beating San Diego State. Good. I thought that was good for them to kind of stay in control in the regular season race. Currently, Jerry Palm has Boise as an 8 seed. Wyoming as a 7 seed. That's what Palm has them. That's the highest among the 4 that we talked about. And then Boise State as an 8 seed and San Diego State as a 10 seed. So very strong season for the Mountain West. I'm glad that they're getting some shine in the court report.
Where was Colorado State on that Palm projection?
8 seed. So Colorado State and Boise both as 8 seeds. Wyoming is the highest right now as a 7 seed, and then San Diego State as a 10.
They're all scrunched on the net right now, by the way. Boise's 30, CSU is 31, San Diego State's 33, and then Wyoming, which I might like more than that. I had Colorado State the best team going into the season, and I still like them a lot. But after having talked to Jeff Linder, the Wyoming coach, earlier this week, they're a very interesting team, and I'll get to them in a second on why. They're 38th in the net. The predictives are the worst on Wyoming. Someone explain this to me. All right. Wyoming, get this. Wyoming in the net is 38. In KenPom, it's 48. It's 105th in BPI. And Colorado State is 31 in the net, 39 in KenPom, 37 Sagarin. It's 82nd in BPI. What's going on over there? I saw over the weekend. Did you see where Albany accidentally became the number 1 ranked team in the BPI for like 7 hours on Saturday morning? Did you see that?
Did they just do it by like
no one knows
alphabetical
why,
order?
But, like, what are we doing? This is one of the 6 team sheet metrics, and they had Albany number 1. What?
I love it.
It was on the website. Oh, and then they fixed it. I don't know. Snafu encoding. I don't know. But that BPI thing is a bit odd. I saw, by the way, there was some conspiratorial talk about maybe the BPI being slanted toward conferences that have contracts with ESPN. I don't think that argument holds much water. I'm not saying it's unthinkable. I don't think that's the case. But if you have evidence dating back literally years to corroborate such claims, I believe a Marquette-based website couldn't help but notice that, since the Big East is no longer on the 4-letter network. But nevertheless, BPI is just the one that it's a team sheet metric. It's on there. I just tend to give it the least amount of attention. I'm much more of a KenPom, strength of record. Those are like my 1 and 2 go-tos for predictive and results based. As for the Mountain West. I do think it's going to get 4. Now, San Diego State's the most vulnerable of the 4, but it's home against San Jose State. Then it's at Wyoming, home to Fresno, at Nevada. It's got the number 2 ranked defense in America per possession, according to Ken Pom. And, Brian Dutcher's done a really, really nice job since taking over for Steve Fisher. This is his 5th season. This will be, if they get in, it will be the 4th year out of 5 where he has had an NCAA tournament level team. SDSU would have been a 2 seed had we had a 2020 NCAA tournament there. So they can absolutely get there. Matt Bradley has been, as advertised this season, he's been really good. And then Nathan Mensah is like a top 20 defender in the sport. He's fantastic. So they've got a good group there. So they are the one team of the 4 that's just they've got the best pedigree. They're the most proven. They've gotten there the most. Boise State, it might surprise some people because they're always in the mix in the Mountain West. KB, do you realize that Boise State has only made the NCAA tournament twice in the past 13 years?
That can't be true.
They've only been there twice, and both times were the first 4, and they didn't win either of those games. Like, it feels like Boise State, they're in there like every 3 years. That hasn't been the case. And now they're normally pretty good, normally like NIT level, but this is finally a year where Leon Rice's team is breaking through, and they've done a really, really good job so far. In terms of where these teams stack up from a predictive standpoint at Ken Pom, San Diego State's the best team according to Ken Pom. Now I think they've got the toughest road to get to the tournament of the 4 we talked about, but they're 23rd. Boise State's 26, Colorado State's 40, and then Wyoming is 49. And then I won't give up too much what's in the story, but Jeff Linder says he has an offense that is literally like nothing else in college basketball. Like, there's not another team that runs their stuff in a similar way that he does. He told me, he gave me a good quote. He said basically something along the lines of, "We are the Tennessee Titans of college basketball, and I have 2 Derrick Henrys on my roster, and they will wear you down, and we will eventually break you." So anytime a coach wants to go with that on the record, I'll take it every time. Wyoming is 22-4. It's only had, I think, 8 seasons in its history where it's won at least 25 games. This will be the 9th year. They're 22 wins now. They're going to get to 25 without a doubt. They're going to get into the NCAA tournament. And the Mountain West bracket tournament, that's always on CBS and CBS Sports Network. It's going to be among the 3 or 4 best league tournaments this March. I got to believe, because you've also got Utah State, Fresno State are viable teams, potential bid thieves even. They're good enough to do that. They've been a bit up and down, but Fresno State has Orlando Robinson. Where is he? Complete off the board question here. Where's Orlando Robinson on your big board list? If you have that ready or handy, he's got to be on there. I mean, he's been a monster, man. He's one of the best big men in the country.
He's number 1. That's where I have him.
He's not number 1
over Jaden Ivey.
No. Are you being serious?
No.
Okay. And I don't know.
He's on the top 50. He's on the top 50. I don't have it handy. But yeah.
He's been tremendous this season. So him at Fresno State, and then Utah State's got Justin Bean. They've been really, really good as well. So wanted to at least give a little bit of love out to the Mountain Time Zone. Often overlooked, not here. And Mountain West marked me down for 4 teams getting to the NCAA tournament this year. Let's talk, before we get to the mailbag, Wednesday, what to watch. I'm going to roll off all the games. You go with it where I'll do a GP. I'm going to say a bunch of crap, and then you're going to just follow up and talk about whatever you want. All right. Here are the games to watch for, the biggest games in my opinion, in chronological order. Creighton at St. John, 6:30 Eastern, FS1. This is Wednesday night. Duke of Virginia is a 7 Eastern ESPN tip. Xavier at Providence, CBS Sports Network, GP in studio. Xavier at Providence, 7 Eastern on CBS Sports Network. Also at 7, man, this is a crunch of games. Rutgers at Michigan, coached by Phil Martelli. That is a Big Ten Network 7 Eastern tip. And then the 9 o'clock tips to keep an eye on, Wyoming at Colorado State. And then LSU will play at Kentucky at 9 Eastern. Go with that where you please.
So Duke at Virginia, I think, is the game to watch. Virginia's technically still alive in the ACC title race. Is that correct? I believe that's right. They're 5th right now.
Did you just say Virginia is still technically alive in the ACC title race?
That's technically right. Yes.
Yeah, I think mathematically is probably right.
Mathematically, yes.
And Virginia, yes, but they have to. They will obviously. They literally need to win out and need help. It's not going to happen. But yes, mathematically true.
Yeah. So that's and I feel like that's maybe what they need to get in the NCAA tournament. They need this win tonight against Duke. I've got a trivia time for you, Matt Norlander. Surprise trivia time. Okay. A win A win for Virginia would give them their first
Mhm.
regular season sweep of Duke since when? Since when, Matt Norlander?
All right, then. This is a good one.
Credit to Virginia's game notes for this.
The fact you are asking me this seems to indicate that Tony Bennett has yet to sweep Duke in a regular season. So I'm going to say it hasn't been in the past decade, and I will. Man, if Virginia has not swept Duke since Bennett got there, and Duke was so reliable, relatively reliable, hasn't won a standalone league title since 06. Right now it's got it. We'll see if it gets there. It should. If it wins on Wednesday, it's pretty much a wrap. I'll go.
The guesses in the chat are amazing, by the way. We're getting like 19.
I'm not even looking.
1969.
I'm not even looking at the chat, but I love this. You play along at home, you play along live, guesses in the chat. The one thing about the chat is people can cheat and not tell you. So we have an honest audience. Don't cheat. I'm going to blindly say 1992.
Pretty close. 1994, 1995 was
Boom.
the last time it happened. 6 of the last 8 meetings between Duke and Virginia have been decided by 2 points or less. So I feel like there's a lot at stake tonight. Virginia really needs this win. They always play a close game. Duke, it does feel like Coach K, at least against Virginia, he doesn't struggle against Virginia, but I feel like they're always playing a close game. So that's the game that I'm probably most interested in. There's a lot of really good games on Wednesday night, but that's the one that I've got circled.
Yeah, no, it's a huge one. If Virginia wins, we'll talk about them on the Friday podcast, because then they start to build a viable NCAA tournament resume. Build is the key word there, because right now Virginia, where were they? Let me bring them up here. The Wahoos, 82nd in the net. Their best metric is KenPom at 50. No, BPI at 59. They got work. They got work to do. But if you sweep Duke, you sweep projected into the field Miami, you have a win over Providence, you're getting there. You're getting there. They have Florida State and they're at Louisville. Virginia needs to win out in the regular season for us to actually be like, okay, let's line this up. But to their credit, I didn't think we'd be talking about this. A month ago, I didn't think we'd be talking about Virginia to potentially be in this spot, but it's getting there. Elsewhere on Wednesday, I think Creighton's in the field as of right now. At St. John's, I can just see St. John's winning this game. Big East has got just fascinating middle part of its league right now. Providence at home against Xavier. Xavier, we got a lot of these teams, man. Like, Xavier's in the field, but you cannot look at the Xavier team and find any kind of inspiration at the moment. They've dropped 4 of 5. They're plummeting. Now they're at Providence. Watch Xavier go out and beat the Friars on the road. That would just be too perfect. I'm completely prepared for that overall. Rutgers at Michigan. You just you tune in to see what Michigan looks like. No Howard. Yep. They don't have 2 of their players in that game, obviously, because of suspension. My most anticipated one is Wyoming at Colorado State. CBS Sports Network, 9:00. Be there. Come on. Get there. All right. Big time Mountain West matchup. Big time. And these are 2 teams that can viably get to the Sweet 16. So if you have not yet checked in on the Mountain West, be sure to do that. And that's a decent dial around Wednesday and what to watch. If you want more Kyle Boone, I got great news for you, because we're going to do a mailbag episode. And if you're watching on video, live or after the fact, you're going to see that we're going to continue on this. If you are listening to this podcast, well, hope you had a great Wednesday or Thursday. And the mailbag portion is going to be in the feed on Thursday. So thank you for listening. No, I will not be doing the shouts now. I will not be doing them at the end of the show. That's not my gimmick, not my shtick. Wonderful to have you. And now we'll get to the mailbag. Okay, live mailbag. So we're going to take questions in the chat. We've got some that were already asked on Twitter. KB ditched the hat? Sure. Why not? Before we get to the basketball questions, though, I got to say something. And thank you for everyone for listening. If you are not a video person and you listen to Wednesday's episode and now you're here listening on Thursday, well, we greatly, greatly appreciate you. You have helped grow the podcast continually. And I know I say that a lot, but just on a personal note, like I remember listening to Andy Glockner do the ESPN podcast back when before I had a full-time writing job. And I was waiting tables. I would download the ESPN college basketball podcast that Glockner hosted onto my computer. I would hook up my iPod, download it onto my iPod, go to work, go to the restaurant, do prep work, earbuds in, and who would have ever thought that one day I'd be hosting one of these things? And we're talking like 2007 when this was happening. But Glockner was a real one, and he had a really good podcast. I bring that up to say, if you enjoy this, I'm right there with you. We try and give you a podcast for people that want to be entertained, but also informed, that just like following the sport in any kind of capacity. So thank you again for listening, and please do continue to subscribe. Whatever service you listen on, if you are able to rate and review, just please continue to give us reviews. You can drop questions, because as we get into March, these podcast services will promote, March Madness themed basketball podcasts. And if the more engagement we get, just the more people that we can get out there. And thank you. We are also working on trying to get like real, like cool shirts, like not like just Eye on College Basketball, but there are more of us than there are of them. Or I want to get one with like a couple of dodo birds on the front, and maybe like on the nape of the back of the shirt, just like a couple of camels going at it, like just stuff like that, subtle stuff. So we're still working on designs. They're not going to be ready in time for March, which was my initial hope, but we will get them done. So if we want to get some garb out there, and we want to do it right, and so that takes a little bit of time there. Before we get into the questions, it's wonderful to have you back here, Kyle. Like it's terrific. So please, just as much as you'd like, share with us how you're doing, how things have been. And, you're going to be you're going to make semi-regular appearances on the pod here as we dip into March. But, obviously our listeners know who you are. We gave updates occasionally when you were going in the hospital and in your second battle with cancer here. So floor is yours. Just, update the audience, because I'm sure there's no shortage of people who are just genuinely curious about how you're doing and how you've been.
Oh, shoot. Well, I'll keep it quick then. I'm good. I'm feeling a lot better. It's been like almost 2 weeks now since I got out of the hospital. I'll have scans and blood work and all that stuff, kind of an update here in like 3 weeks. And they're optimistic that I will be cured. I don't know for sure if I'll know the answer to that here in a couple of weeks, but they seem to be optimistic. So yeah, it's been pretty tough. I'll take my quick 2 seconds to just remind everyone who is watching on the YouTube channel right now. If you're a dude out there, let my case be a reminder, an example, to check yourself on a regular basis, once a month. Just check down there, make sure it feels all normal. If something doesn't feel normal, then go to your doctor. So yeah, that's my quick spiel, I guess, that I will take to remind everyone out there, as my case is, I guess people are becoming more aware of it. And so yeah, that's about it. I appreciate you asking, and I don't want to take too much time giving everyone an update, but yeah.
And listen, you are too humble, and we are thrilled that you are back in the mix here, and very happy. Listen, David Cobb's way too good at picking games. Can't have this. Can't have it. Won't have it. He's done. We're going off on a high note. He'll be back on other episodes. I don't want him picking another game. All right, don't want it.
Agreed.
No, it's wonderful to have you back, and yeah, man. Hopefully, just nothing but great news going forward. And I'm just thrilled, genuinely thrilled, you're able to hop on this episode. And I see people in the chat sending along such encouragement. That's awesome. Yeah. Kyle Boone is the best of us. Okay. The best of us. He is. He needs to hear that in real time, me saying it to him. So
appreciate you, buddy.
Absolutely fantastic. All right, let's get to some questions. I'm going to get to some of the ones that were asked on Twitter first, and I'll get to some ones in the live chat as well. We'll go relatively rapid fire here. Okay. Like to be nimble. And we were way overdue for a mailbag episode. GP likes doing them. He just doesn't love doing them. I think this is a lot of fun, and let's interact with the audience, right? Let's hit on some stuff that maybe we wouldn't think to address, and we'll try and drop these in maybe a little more frequently, but obviously, like, March gets so insane. We'll try and do better about that in the off season. Do some mailbag stuff because obviously, especially in real time, if you're watching on the live feed, there's a lot of reason why people would want to engage with that. One, not Alec98 asked, did I miss a story about GP stepping on homeless people? If not, please tell. You did miss that story because that's not true. I stepped on a homeless person accidentally after the 2014 Final Four. Have told this story multiple times on the podcast. Will not be doing it again today. By the way, should I go music bed right now?
Yes. Yes, you should.
Okay.
Absolutely. You just now thinking about this?
That's right.
You have this ready.
I'm going music bed. Hold on here. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. How's that level right now? Nada, how are we feeling with that?
That's glorious. Let's keep it going.
Okay.
GP's not here. He's not going to complain. Again, he can't complain or anything else like that.
He has a radio show. One of the very basic principal concepts of radio shows is that when you do like these special segments, there's music beds. But on a podcast, God forbid we play a little bit of music. God forbid. Okay, next question. Should ADs start thinking twice before hiring the famous alumnus for the head job? I'm not going to answer this one. I don't want to have to answer every single one. This is going to be all you, KB. The recent results with Howard, Penny, Ewing, Davis, etc. are not quite what they've been versus hiring, quote, outside the family with latest examples of ADs going to Tommy Lloyd and Eric Musselman. That is from Marcus Watson, 44. Your thoughts, Kyle Boone?
No, I don't think you should rethink it. I think I'm personally offended that Juwan Howard's noticed or mentioned here. Juwan Howard's been a really good coach. I think that was a pretty good hire. So I do feel like the in the family hires are probably like overblown or over prioritized. But you know, I think on a case by case basis, I think they're fine. So yeah.
Okay. I'm seeing the comments. Music's a little too high. I'm adjusting in real time. I don't know if I'm breaking out the guitar in this episode. I have played guitar on the podcast in the past. That has happened. Don't know if that'll be today. If you want to really see Parrish meltdown in real time, have me just pull down this Ibanez PF10 right now. No, when he's on it. I don't know if we'll do that. Next question.
Do it.
Who wins an arm wrestling contest between Gary Parrish, CBS, Matt Norlander, and Nada the Scribe? By the way, if you want to follow Nada on Twitter and you want heavy Hornets content, I mean, I'm talking relentless Hornets takes, at Nada the Scribe, Nata the Scribe. That is asked by the Mosque 3. I'm losing. Parrish is stronger than me, and Nada's. I've never met Nada in person, but he's definitely beating me. Nada, real quick for you. You versus GP arm wrestling. Who's winning that?
Unless Gary Parrish has lifted a 200-pound ice sculpture in the last 18 months, he ain't winning.
Love it.
GP's always making fun of himself for his like odd body type, but as
literally dead arm.
Yeah,
dead arm Gary Parrish.
I will say, as someone who's not mentioned here, I think I would put GP at like minus 200 to potentially win here. Just low center of gravity. Like he doesn't have to go far to get Nada. Like I think GP's got the upper hand here. Sorry, Nada.
I am disappointed in you. And remember all that draft stuff we talked about, all the draft content that we planned. That's going in the trash as soon as the show is over.
By the way, fully intend to have Kyle Boone more prominently featured in draft podcasts, off-season stuff as well. Look forward to that once we get to April, May, especially June. Next question comes from Trey S842. What is your assessment of Hubert Davis's performance to date as UNC's head coach? All right, I'll take this one first.
Yeah.
I'm not that critical. I actually think now, have they not won the games they need to win, like against good opponents? Absolutely. But UNC is 20-8 in Hubert Davis's first season ever as a head coach. It could have gone worse than this. We'll see what they get. They're at NC State on Saturday. They still have a healthy chance to make the NCAA tournament. They are 12-5 in the ACC. If UNC fans want to be a little bit frustrated, I get in, and I don't reject that from where you're coming from as a UNC fan. I do understand that, but man, I got to say, I think he has done a relatively decent job. Now, some of this is made even more. It's a starker contrast because you've got Tommy Lloyd in year one at Arizona going to be a 1 seed. You've got Mark Adams, who's probably on the 2 line right now at Texas Tech in his first season running a Division I program there. So there have been guys that have been stepping into new roles. But right now, I got to imagine you know what's interesting is it feels like the Carolina fan base is more frustrated with its coach right now than who's another, like Indiana, Mike Woodson in his first season. But maybe the internet's out. Internet out in Indiana right now? That might be affecting my...
Could be.
Yeah, that might be the case. What are your thoughts on what Hubert's done through first 28 games?
Yeah, I think he's been fine. UNC's, obviously fighting to get into the NCAA tournament. So if you just take that, UNC's fighting to get in the NCAA tournament, I understand why UNC fans would be somewhat displeased for what's happened in year one under Hubert Davis. But the talent level isn't quite what you'd want. So I think it's hard to totally evaluate him and make any sweeping declarations. Can definitely understand some disappointment if they miss the NCAA tournament this year. But they have a real shot. I think in year one, there's been enough promise. I'm buying Hubert Davis stock long-term. I feel like it will end up working out and be okay.
Yeah. I think, Hubert Davis long-term stock. I think he's got a healthy chance. I'm not as negative on Davis as maybe some others at this point. I just think he's done a pretty good job here. And, oh, by the way, Armando Bacot's got a case to be like a third-team All-American right now. I don't think people realize how good. Now, I know Carolina fans, maybe some people that are dialed in the ACC realize, but because there's been so many good big men this year, Bacot and UNC's not been firmly in the tournament picture. Bacot's been a little bit overlooked, but he's been pretty solid. All right. Kai, dad of 3, asks, if the tourney started today, that'd be a problem. I mean, we'd have to really get things moving. But who would be your dark horse to win the whole thing? Let's be clear about these rules, all right? If we're talking dark horse, don't even get me on the difference between a sleeper and a Cinderella. Okay, that's a rant for another show. But there is a difference. Real ones know. Let's say, all right, bring up Palm's bracket. Dark horse to win the title can't be on the 1, 2, or 3 line. Okay? I'm going to say a 3 can't be a dark horse. Dark horse to win the title's got to be a 4 or worse. With that in mind, you go first, KB. You got to pick them to win. Your best dark horse. Who is it?
Okay, I'm pulling it up here, but I just like to note that we both picked Purdue in the preseason to win it all. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Obviously not a dark horse.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to note that, kind of pimp ourselves, because I feel like that was a pretty good preseason call. Not a lot of people were on Purdue, but we were definitely on that. Oh gosh, dark horse.
Bring up this bracket.
So
yeah.
Not a 1, not a 2, not a 3.
I'm 1, 2, or 3.
Okay, then that's easy for me. It's UCLA. They're on the 4 line right now in Palm's bracket. 20-5. Obviously, Arizona's kind of outshone them in the Pac-12, but that is a really good team. They were in the Final Four a year ago. They've got pretty much that entire roster back. They've been here before. Johnny Juzang. I'll just name all the players. That's a really good team. To me, that would be like the dark horse. I don't feel like UCLA qualifies as a dark horse, but by that metric that you qualified, they do. 4 line.
Can I just say, I am so damn excited for the NCAA tournament.
Oh yeah,
we are Captain Obvious Alert. I get all that, but we're 3 weeks away basically. I cannot wait for this. I am so genuinely excited to get this thing going again. It's man, I cannot wait. Finally get back to the way that it was. Let's go.
Who's your straight pick to win it all right now? Are you changing off of Purdue from your preseason pick, or are you going to stick with it? Before you make your dark horse pick.
Stick with it for now. Stick with it for now.
Yeah.
I so badly wish Illinois was on the 4 line.
Are they 3 in Palm's bracket?
They're 3.
Okay.
Yeah. UCLA on the 4 has got to be the pick right here. I can't go Ohio. I cannot go Texas, Ohio State, Tennessee on the 4. There's just Tennessee doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Tennessee's good. Tennessee can make the Final Four. It doesn't have it. Dude, Bama's on Palm's 4 line right now. There's no shot. Like there's no shot. Oh man, yeah, it's got to be UCLA. That's the pick. That's the dark horse right now. I think that's the most practical, logical one out there.
My 1B pick would be probably Houston. Looks like they're on the 4 line on 5 line actually.
They're on the 5. It's got to catch up to them eventually, right?
I don't know.
I mean, in a way, it did.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
All right. At Caleb Henry asks, do you guys see the success of the WCC this season continuing after this year? Will the gap between Gonzaga and the field ever thin? I haven't decided yet. A little peek behind the writer's mind here. I may have something on this very topic in next week's court report. I might. It depends on what we get over the next few games. I'm gonna push that off. You answer it, KB. I won't answer. Success of the WCC, will it thin after this year? Remember, BYU is obviously going to the Big 12.
Yeah, probably. I mean, BYU's pretty consistently been one of the best in the WCC, so I think it's probably inevitable. The gap between Gonzaga and the field in the WCC, will that thin? I can't see that happening. In fact, I kind of feel like the gap between Gonzaga and the rest of the field is probably going to continue to widen. They had a top 10 pick a year ago with Jalen Suggs. They might have the number 1 pick in the draft this year with Chet Holmgren. Players notice when you get sent to the NBA draft, and I feel like this is just going to continue to snowball for Gonzaga. Mark Few, they're going to continue to recruit at a really, really high level, and they're the favorite to win the national championship right now. So if they win it all, I think that even changes the paradigm even more. So yeah, I can't imagine the gap between Gonzaga and the rest of the WCC.
Okay. Yeah. You guys are coming through with a lot of questions. We're not going to be able to get to all these, but this is great. This is the exact thing that I'm looking for. We got a lot of really, really good questions here, and if there are some that you asked that don't get answered today, keep them in mind for the next time. They could apply just as relevantly for another one of these. I did just see in real time Norlander, who is the hardest coach to interview in terms of gives the worst answers. I don't know. Rephrase the question, Myron Goodman, so I know what exactly are you saying. The hardest coach to get? That's obvious. It's Mike Krzyzewski. But if you're talking about the hardest coach to actually get a productive interview from, they don't give you a lot. There's a lot of different potential answers there. We got one on Twitter, and then I'll get to the live ones here. Last one was for the people who have only started listening to the pod within the past year or so and haven't heard the background of the intro and outro shoutouts. Could you give a brief history for them, just as a fun segment for the end of the pod, just to break away from basketball? So obviously Parrish does the intro and outro shoutouts. He can more speak to this. This did happen organically, but if you're wondering why every episode starts, hey there, it's Gary Parrish, it's Wednesday, because there's a rhythm to this, right? My man does radio 5 days a week. He has got a process to this, so it helps him start and it helps him end. Kyle and I might go awkward pause to end this mailbag episode. Okay, we just might go awkward pause and that's it. Who knows where this plane's going? But Parrish is more, all right, let's structure it this way. I like to get a little bit of messy there. I like to have a little bit of mess with it, a little more free flowing, loose. But it's that give and take that makes the pod work so well. And then when we really get off the track, well, those are some incredible moments. The shouts truly stem back to, a lot of people listening know exactly where I'm going with this, but if you have started to watch or listen to this podcast in the past month, 2 months, 6 months, 7 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, we randomly got onto the topic of Kentucky winning the championship in 2012 and Calipari, and they lost against South Carolina, and we could not remember who the small dude playing at South Carolina was in real time. On the podcast, we couldn't recall. We were just like, who is that? Who is the guy? Who did that? So some minutes later, we realized it was Devin Downey. And so then it might have been Parrish, it might have been me. I'm not sure who actually said the words shouts to Devin Downey first on this podcast. It might have been him, it might have been me. But in that episode, we got a shouts to Devin Downey. Just shouts to Devin Downey, man. Remember Devin Downey? Remember how awesome that dude was? And so that's how it essentially started. And then little by little, he added names. So this is more of a Paris question, but I at least wanted to address it for people that are curious why the podcast starts the same way and ends the same way. It also helps, get it off the ground and get it back on. So that's basically that. All right, you want to go to one's in real time here?
Let's do it.
Okay, Nada has starred some for me. What do you think about Steve Forbes? A.A. Abid, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. What do you think about Steve Forbes as a Wake candidate, as a candidate for the Maryland job? No. I mean, nothing's – I think Louisville would make more sense. I would have to think that Steve Forbes would be on the short list for consideration for Louisville, but we will wait and see. The Louisville athletic director said to, I believe, Jeff Greer recently, he said, listen, I'm going to paraphrase this, but he said – we're not waiting until the end of the tournament to hire our next coach. We're going to try and get that done as soon as possible after our season ends, which indicates to me that Kenny Payne, who has been viewed as the front runner, probably still that. I'm not saying Kenny Payne will be the coach, but he is a logical person there. Next question. I have a theory. This is from Brian. I have a theory that Strongjaw was listening to the pod last week, figured out that if GP lost his phone and then called the driver and had the driver mail GP's phone to him, KB is now extorting him. Huh. Extortion. I would know when Parrish is returning to the podcast, so anything's possible. You don't even know if he's got his phone.
I would never extort a fellow bald bro. That is rule number one of being bald. You don't extort another fellow bald bro. But I think there's been a lot of questions about where GP is, and so yeah, he's good. He's alive. He's got his phone.
He is.
Yeah. I believe he's got his phone.
I don't know that.
Okay. I assumed he probably
dude, I can't believe he did that. I can't believe he was willing to not have his phone overnight. Hopefully he'll be back on the Friday show to give an update. Over under 6.5 minutes. Nada, over under 6.5 minutes, Paris telling the story of how he got the phone back.
Well over. I'm planning on making a video on demand. Like there may be some additional content involving GP story times from this season. I haven't figured out all the effects and the graphics yet, but it's coming. Please believe that.
Paramount Plus coming soon.
Oh boy.
Love it.
Kevin Breen asks, for the mailbag, can we talk mid-majors, preferably ones Norlander hasn't talked about already, that have a shot at the second weekend in March? Mid-majors with a shot at the second weekend in March that we haven't talked about already. Got a thought? Who springs to mind for you?
Murray State immediately.
We haven't talked about them. They clearly do.
Okay. I thought they were probably included in that. Yeah, Murray State for sure. They're 26-2. They haven't lost in the year of our Lord 2022. That is a very good basketball team. The Rays, I think, would be my easy pick as a mid-major that can go to the second weekend. What about you?
Well, Murray State's 26-2.
Yeah.
Just let that sink in.
Yeah.
It's huge. Oh, actually, that reminds me. I said I would. This is now a Thursday. Listen, the mailbag is going in the feed on Thursday. If you're watching live on Wednesday, you're good. I actually said I would talk about Murray State Belmont. They play Belmont Thursday. Humongous game. Huge. Belmont's at-large case could rest on this game because Murray can lose this game and still be a projected at-large team, in my opinion. If Belmont can win and split, it'll be 25-5. Trivia time. I'm so used to getting the okay. All right. Since the start of the 2019-20 season, who are the winningest programs in men's Division I college basketball? Belmont's on this list. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 8 of them here. Okay. Can you get who? The winningest, won the most games since 2019-20.
Gonzaga.
Gonzaga's number 1. Gonzaga's 1. Yes.
Yep. Baylor.
Number 2.
Okay.
Belmont is number 3.
Belmont. Okay. That one I would not have guessed. San Diego State.
Number 7 on the list. Look at you.
Let's go.
The David Cobb of trivia time, some might say.
Okay, that was a good one. I'm proud of that one. Oh, this gets tricky. Texas Tech.
No.
Okay.
There's another Texas school in here, though.
Oh, did I guess Baylor?
You did? There's another
Okay.
Texas school here.
Okay. Oh, Houston.
There we go. Number
Okay,
4
yeah.
on the list.
Yeah.
Gonzaga 1, Baylor 2, Belmont 3, Houston 4,
Yep.
San Diego State 7. Need 3 more teams. One of them is obvious.
Duke.
No.
One of them is obvious. Kansas.
Correct.
Okay.
Kansas. 2 more. One is in a power conference. One is a mid-major.
Kentucky.
No.
Okay.
Power conference team is not. It's not springing to mind immediately.
Okay.
But-
Can I ask which conference? Throw me a lifeline.
Not in the Eastern or Central time zone.
Okay. Oh, UCLA.
Southern California.
Southern Cal. Okay. Yeah.
They're 8, and then you're not going to get 5.
No, I won't.
Liberty.
Liberty. Wow. Okay,
Liberty.
that
Those are the
one's
8 winningest programs since the start of the 1920 season. Pre-pandemic, by the way. But yeah, Murray State's 1. North Texas, to answer the question, North Texas is another. North Texas will be featured in next week's court report. I've already talked to Grant McCaslin, but we'll put that. We did a little Wyoming this week, and North Texas is another one. We'll have more of that kind of talk once we get closer, by the way, once we get closer to the start of the tournament. Justin Nicosia asks, is GP secretly Mick Cronin? I've never seen both of them at the same place at the same time.
makes you
It's
think.
honestly disturbing. And this is where, like, I wish we need to have the ability to, like, we're talking about this and then we get the side-by-side right now. We don't have that. It's disturbing how closely these two look like each other.
Do we have a picture of them together? Because we need that for sure.
I have been in the same room with both of those men at the same time. I can attest that they're not the same person.
Same height, though, right? Like pretty close.
If you could tell me I could switch out Parrish as the co-host for Mick Cronin, I would do it in an instant because I want to see Gary Parrish try and run a Division I men's basketball program.
Oh, yes. Be glorious. Be absolutely glorious.
Logan Murphy asks, what does Creighton need to do down the stretch to make the tournament? The answer to this question always is win games, but more specifically, well, if you're listening on Thursday, Creighton has already played at St. John's. If you're watching live on Wednesday, that's going to happen tonight. Beat St. John's. You got St. John's on the road, Providence on the road. Uconn, Seton Hall at home. You want to feel good? Go 3-1 in that stretch. 3-1, and you are sitting way pretty. 2-2. Maybe we got some intrigue going into the Big East tournament. Creighton has won 5 games in a row, but only one of those 5 wins have come over an NCAA tournament team in Marquette. Jonathan Phipps asks, what's the most memorable college basketball games you've ever attended? I mean, I was at the Jenkins. It's the title games. The Jenkins shot in 2016 is super memorable. I've been at a lot of them. I mean, I'm going to be going to one next weekend. I'm going to be at Coach K's final home game. So that'll be, by the way, it's going to be a madhouse. You got an answer? What do you
As a fan, I think probably the most memorable game I've ever been to college basketball was probably Bedlam. Gosh, what year was it? The Trae Young year. I think Trae Young dropped like 48 points and OSU won. I'm an OSU fan, so OSU grad, and that was a fantastic atmosphere. It was very fun to be in the building for. But yeah, probably outside that, I mean, working the Final Fours that I've gone to, I think that was the San Antonio Final Four and then Minneapolis. Those games, those were all memorable too, for sure.
Okay, I'm gonna follow up that question before. I'm seeing it now. It's saying in terms of getting actual good intel from coaches, who's the hardest?
Yeah,
like I guess I have to answer this in an on the record capacity. Hardest on the okay. Well, obviously, like the answer to this is Cal and Krzyzewski. like Mike Krzyzewski he has earned everything that has come to him and all this praise. And I understand he's a polarizing figure because he coaches at Duke, but there is an element to Krzyzewski that when he retires, like I'm not going to miss. Like he's just you can't. He is the one coach, even more than Cal. Cal has some of this as well, where there's just not access to him like other coaches. I can call Bill Self right now. I can call Tom Izzo right now. I can call Scott Drew right now. I can call Tommy Lloyd, call Mark Few. I can call like those coaches make themselves available to members of the media in ways that Mike Krzyzewski just doesn't. That's fine. It doesn't even bother me. I completely understand it. But college basketball now is also not as big as it was when Mike Krzyzewski really made his name. So in some ways, he is also a coach of a different era. And I wonder if that era might be permanently behind us. I would argue it probably should be. But, Duke and Kentucky are also the two biggest programs. And it's certainly understandable there with all of that. In terms of I'd say like some of the coaches that are like there's nothing wrong with this. They're just kind of blandish quotes. Like Dana Altman at Oregon's not going to give you a ton. Trying to think of other coaches in power conferences. Weirdly, and like Greg Gard's like a fine guy to talk with. Not going to give you like the most riveting quotes, and there's nothing wrong with that. I actually like, again, going back to what we talked about with Dan Hurley, I like that college basketball has so many different kinds of, like so many different people from different walks of life find themselves leading and guiding a Division I program. And I like how much diversity there is with that in terms of where these people have come from. In addition to the fact that the sport is getting better at actual, true diversity. And last year, in the wake of everything that we had with George Floyd and all of that, men's college basketball actually proactively hired more minority coaches than I think probably ever in any offseason. So that's also a very, very good thing. But for the most part, I'd say most coaches are pretty good on the record. A lot of them are very good off the record. I wish a lot of these guys would be a lot of them are their authentic selves. I just wish they would be more their authentic selves. I understand it. You're running a program, you're representing a school, but like sometimes coaches will say stuff and in order to maintain, relationships, you don't want to, like, if they could say something's off the record, I don't have to agree to it. That's happened a couple of times where a coach has given me something like, off the record. I'm like, dude, that's perfectly fine. And I'm going to take it on the record. You're not going to get blowback for saying something like that. I wish they would be more like that, but of course, it is what it is. I want to get one that KB can answer here. Who wins? You answer this one. I'm not involved in this. Who wins in a 2 versus 2? Is this a fight? Is this a pickup game? What are we talking about? Rothstein and Parrish against me and Cobb. If it's pickup,
I feel like this is a one. Like this has got to be 2-on-2 half court.
Yeah,
it's got to be 2-on-2 half court game.
It's me and Cobb. I'm the best basketball player. I'm a 6'3". I'm a 6'3" mini Dirk. Like, what do you want from me?
Yeah, I was gonna pick Norlander and Cobb for sure, just because Norlander. For people don't know, Norlander is super tall, 6'3".
I'm 6'3". I'm not super tall, but I'm not. I'm not Parrish. I'm not like 5'4".
Yeah. I don't know how tall Rothstein is, but
Rothstein's got height. It's Rothstein's trying. He's backing me down on the post. Rothstein.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like Rothstein's 6'2". I don't know Cobb's height. Do we have any kind of idea on David Cobb's height?
I don't.
I'm going 5'11" for Cobb. Blind guess.
Yeah, but I think he could easily erase whatever GB brings to the table. So yeah, I'm taking your side.
Okay. Yeah, I think we got that. Cooper Sadowski asks, should the MAC get a slight bit more love? Seem to be on the WCC tier, in my opinion, minus Gonzaga. Obvi. Buffalo beats Arizona, 6th seed year later. Ohio beats Virginia. Toledo often good. There's something to that. We don't talk a ton of MAC on the pod, so I'm happy to do it. And this is why I hope you enjoy these mailbag little specials as well, because it gets into this exact kind of territory. How about this with the MAC? So Toledo right now, 22-6. Ohio's 23-5. Kent State's actually kind of come on as of late. Rob Senderhoff, one of the more underrated mid-major coaches in the game. Kent State has not lost in more than a month. MAC tournament could get a little bit juicy. The MAC traditionally, this is actually not the case this year. I brought up the KenPom page. Usually the MAC will have a couple of top 100 teams, and then almost everyone else will be squeezed between like 120 and 205. This year, it's got some bad teams. Western Michigan's bad. Eastern Michigan is bad. Northern Illinois is bad. Central Michigan is bad. Now a lot of those have first-year coaches, but the MAC is traditionally like in that top 3 tier outside of the what I define as multi-bid conferences, which would be WCC, A10, Mountain West. Then you get into the MAC is usually somewhere like 11, 12, 13. It actually ranks 20th overall. It's a little bit down this season, but Toledo, Ohio, I shouldn't say Toledo, Ohio. That's literally a city. Toledo, Ohio, Kent State all have the capability. Buffalo is actually really good as well. It's got Janathan Williams and Josh Mbala are really good players. Buffalo has been slightly underperforming this year, but yeah, perhaps the MAC should get more run than it does, but it is having a down year. Last year it was 12th overall, year before 12th, year before that 9th, year before that 13, 12, 11. Like it is in that tier, but this is an aberrationally down year for the league. Any thoughts, KP?
Yeah, I think we view them just below probably the WCC tier only because we view Gonzaga, as
There we go. They'll find you.
As perennially just a power.
Gonzaga's Ogs, okay?
Yeah, I got to keep correcting myself there. But that's why. There's always a few really good teams that come out of the MAC. I always feel like Buffalo's pretty good. They're always in the mix. But that's probably all. I still view them below the WCC tier, but yeah, that's kind of what I think.
All right, good deal. Fire one more. Fire them right in the chat right now. 2 or 3, and then we're getting out of here. I want to see him pop up here. Matt, why do you roll your eyes every time a Memphis question topic comes up on the podcast? Untrue. I'm actually more willing to talk about Memphis on this podcast than Parrish probably. Parrish has to talk about that program every single day. You think he wants to talk about it on this podcast? I mean, he's not averse to it, but he's not like looking to do it. He's not like, listen, topic 2, it's Memphis, buckle in, 23 minutes. That's not how it goes. I don't mind. Side note, I briefly talked with Elgin Bates on Tuesday. Amani Bates practiced for the first time since his back on Tuesday. I don't know if and when he's going to return, but he has practice. He returned to practice. So we'll see. I like this question. You answer this, KB. Sam Wingen, Big Ten with no title since 2000. Is this a product of poor luck and a high variance event, or are there legitimate factors in play hindering the conference's ability to win it all? By the way, Pac-12 hasn't won since 97.
It's the former for sure. They've had a ton of really good teams. They just haven't been able to get over the top. Obviously, Michigan comes to mind as someone who's been really close. Purdue's had a ton of really good teams the last few years. They just haven't been able to make the run that at least I think they're capable of. Maybe this year will change. Yeah, I mean, Michigan State is always in the mix. Like, to me, it's just sometimes you get lucky and you make it all the way, and sometimes you don't. It's a funny Big Ten stat that is stuck with the league, obviously.
High variance event. It's major factor. The great thing about the NCAA tournament is the very nature of how it is built. Yeah. You have to win. You have to win at least 6 in a row. Not a lot of people realize that.
People forget.
Win 6 in a row to win a title.
People forget. I know.
People forget. They forget. Kevin Breen asked, do I miss the fake Norlander stories from Apple reviews? No, those got ridiculous. But I do appreciate our fan base for doing that. I do appreciate that. James Horton asks, any news on more IARP decisions? No, but I got to be honest. In like October, I thought we would have Memphis's decision by now. And now part of me believes that we're not getting it. Not part of me. All of me believes we're not getting that until after the season. And we'll get them. And then the IARP is expected to go the way of the dodo. Okay. I don't think that's going to be a thing that exists once these cases get resolved. Because there's been a whole, restructuring the NCAA Constitution and all of that. So keep that in mind. David Jadeka, hopefully I got that name right. Dream job if you weren't doing this. This is kind of the dream job.
Oh, for sure.
This is the dream job.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. It is. If I wasn't doing this, like something I'm capable of doing, because the dream job might be
playing the guitar.
hopping on those drums right there. But it's not realistic. So, this is basically it's legitimate work. I mean, this live podcast has gone over 90 minutes. I still got to finish this court report. Got a 3-year-old coming home from pre-K soon. Tricky one there. But no, this is pretty much it. I got to be honest. Any other ones I can get to before we get out of here? That might be it. Most likely Power 6 team to steal a bid in their conference tourney. We'll wrap with that one. To steal a bid. So you're not in. Who's going to be the Power 6 team? No, let's go through it real quick here, KB. Big East. There's no bid thief situation there. By the way, court report plug. Oregon State's won 3 games this year. It's the worst ever for a team that made the Elite 8 the following season. But if you want to see the other worsts ever, check out the court report. Okay, so Big East is a no. Let's go in order. Big 12. Anyone? Can we see like Oklahoma or Virginia bid thieving?
No.
K-State. Can't see it, right?
Nope.
SEC bid thief situation.
No. I don't
Right?
believe so. Yeah, no.
You're not seeing Mississippi State, Florida,
Mm-mm.
not to mention like Texas A&M, South Carolina, Georgia. Oh boy, that's a mess there. Big 10. Maryland coming out of nowhere. Minnesota refining its footing.
Nope.
Michigan. Is Michigan a bid thief situation if it makes a Big 10 title game? Probably not, right?
No, I don't think so.
No bid thief situation there.
Yeah.
We did Big East. All right, Pac-12. I can see it.
Yeah, I could see that.
See, Oregon. Right,
yeah.
they're 17-10. Oregon's got its opportunities here. Oregon's next 2 games are UCLA and USC. They play UCLA on Thursday night. Then they've got Washington and Washington State on the road. Not that they're going to go 4-0, but if Oregon goes 4-0 in that stretch, they're in the tournament again. So let's remove Oregon from the conversation. I could see Colorado. I could see Washington State. I could see it. That's the most likely conference in which I could envision it happening. Agreed? Or ACC.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. It's probably the Pac-12. You've got Arizona at the top, UCLA, USC. If Oregon does it or Colorado does it, that wouldn't totally surprise me. Yeah, I think that's right.
ACC's got a shot. Like if Virginia loses to, it's so funny. I'm saying like in the future, people are going to be listening to this on Thursday. So Virginia's already played Duke, but if Virginia loses to Duke on Wednesday, not going to be in the tournament picture.
Right.
Certainly possible. Syracuse in March. Hello. Virginia Tech preseason projected tournament team has won 6 of its past 7. Possible. I actually, you know what? Give me the ACC more likely than the Pac-12. There's a chance,
Okay.
but I will say we will have no bid thieves in any of the 6 biggest leagues this season.
I agree.
Hey, this was a lot of fun.
Not as telling us to go home. We better go home.
Is he saying we got to get out of here?
He said, let's go.
Oh, wow.
home.
He really wants to get out of here. Nada, you got this. Thank you to everyone for watching in real time on Wednesday. Thank you to everyone for listening and downloading. Please, if you have not already, do subscribe to the YouTube channel. And we appreciate you so much. If you appreciated the Mailbag episode, let us know in the comments. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. We'll be back on Friday. And yes, Gary Parrish will be here for that episode. Thank you and talk to you soon.